Welcome, Stephen. That was really nice.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Fork. We meet here every Sunday at 10:30 to exchange ideas, to read together, to sing a few songs, and to enjoy each other's company. If you are here for the first time, and I don't see anyone here for the first time, you'll learn we are an eclectic group. Some of us overeducated, others with high school only, all from a wide variety of religious backgrounds: Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, occasionally even one or two that were raised Unitarian Universalist. Although you may paint us as liberal if you were using a broad brush, our key principle is to respect each other's search for truth and meaning. You'll discover we do not all agree on the details of theology, of capitalism, of immigration, of pacifism, of warfare itself. These make for interesting conversations. In our fellowship together, we do our imperfect best to listen with compassion and respect, understanding that each of us arrives in this place with different gifts and needs. We deal with conflict honestly and speak with care. So let's take a moment now to greet everyone. Here, Carl and Jerry and Patience just walked in. So my name is Mark Potter. I'm your worship associate today, and we're proud to have in our pulpit the Reverend Ned Wight, retired from the UU congregation in Shelter Rock in 2019. He's keeping himself busy, preaching and outlaying congregations. His topic this morning is accountability, what we learned from our shared past. Our musician is the talented Stephen Skoldberg. Carl is managing Zoom, and Monica is our camera woman. Stephen has already played La Satté, which was lovely. And now we're going to rise as you're able to sing from the Blue Hymnal, 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Do you want to do the chalice lighting?
Sorry, we're going to do the chalice lighting.
Good.
Thanks, Ned.
Good. Don't worry, we will do Blue Boat Home here. In observance of Black History Month, our opening words are from singer and social activist Paul Robeson. I shall take my voice wherever there are those who want to hear the melody of freedom, or the words that might inspire hope and courage in the face of despair and fear. My weapons are peaceful, for it is only by peace that peace can be attained. The song of freedom must prevail. Now we have an opportunity to rise as you're able as we sing together Blue Boat Home, number 1064 in the Teal book. 1064.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my twilight heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, ever harbor or port I know, the wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I glide the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all weekend and pilgrim soul, making our way with the lights of the heavens and the beautiful blue world.
I invite now forward Carl and Pam, who will assist me in rendering our story for the morning from a collection of stories about Frog and Toad. Two of their favorites, incidentally, I've been informed. This is entitled Alone. Toad went to Frog's house. He found a note on the door. The note said,
"Dear Toad, I am not at home. I went out. I want to be alone."
Alone? Alone? Frog has me for a friend. Why does he want to be alone?
Toad looked through the windows. He looked in the garden. He did not see Frog. Toad went to the woods. Frog was not there. He went to the meadow. Frog was not there. Toad went down to the river. There was Frog. He was sitting on an island by himself.
Poor Frog. He must be very sad. I will cheer him up.
Toad ran home. He made sandwiches. He made a pitcher of iced tea. He put everything in a basket. Toad hurried back to the river.
Frog, it's me. It's your best friend, Toad.
Frog was too far away to hear. Toad took off his jacket and waved it like a flag. Frog was too far away to see. Toad shouted and waved, but it was no use. Frog sat on the island. He did not see or hear Toad. A turtle swam by. Toad climbed on the turtle's back.
Turtle, carry me to the island. Frog is there. He wants to be alone.
If Frog wants to be alone, said the turtle, why don't you leave him alone?
Maybe you are right. Maybe Frog does not want to see me. Maybe he does not want to be with his friend anymore.
Yes, maybe, said the turtle as he swam to the island.
Frog, I am sorry for all the dumb things I do. I am sorry for all the silly things I say. Please be my friend again.
Toad slipped off the turtle. With a splash, he fell in the river. Frog pulled Toad up onto the island. Toad looked in the basket. The sandwiches were wet. The pitcher of iced tea was empty.
Our lunch is spoiled. I made it for you, Frog, so that you would be happy. Everything's wet.
But Toad, I am happy. I am very happy. This morning when I woke up, I felt good because the sun was shining. I felt good because I was a frog. And I felt good because I have you for a friend. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to think about how fine everything is.
Oh, I guess that is a very good reason for wanting to be alone.
Now, I will be glad not to be alone. Let's eat lunch.
Frog and Toad stayed on the island all afternoon. They ate wet sandwiches without iced tea. They were two close friends, sitting alone together. Thank you, Pam and Carl. That was inspired.
So now, while Stephen plays Beethoven's second movement of Sonata Pathétique, we will gratefully accept your offering 2 baskets in our offering. We pass 1 basket for your gifts for the work to support the congregation in Meeting House. The blue basket in the back is for the Helping Hand Fund, which supports the congregation's work beyond these walls. And now is the time when we share our personal joys and concerns. And now Ned will have a reading from us from Barbara Crooker.
The title is part of the reading, so I'll just start with the title and go into the reading. In the middle of a life that's as complicated as everyone else's, struggling for balance, juggling time, The mantel clock that was my grandfather's has stopped at 9:20. We haven't had time to get it repaired. The brass pendulum is still. The chimes don't ring. One day I look out the window, green summer. The next, the leaves have already fallen, and a gray sky lowers the horizon. Our children almost grown. Our parents gone. It happens so fast. Each day we must learn again how to love between morning's quick coffee and evening's slow return. Steam from a pot of soup rises, mixing with the yeasty smell of baking bread. Our bodies twine, and the big black dog pushes his great head between, his tail a metronome, 3/4 time. We'll never get there. Time is always ahead of us, running down the beach, urging us on, faster, faster. But sometimes we take off our watches. Sometimes we lie in the hammock, caught between the mesh of rope and the net of stars, suspended, tangled up in love, running out of time. Here ends our reading. Let us once again, as you're able, rise as we sing together hymn number 1028, 1028, The Fire of Commitment. Please be seated. Is it for me? Before I begin, just let me acknowledge the courage and intrepidness of everyone here in the room who managed to make it here. Some driving 5 hours from New Jersey. Mirabile dictu. And also congratulations to those who are here virtually. It is always a pleasure to have a virtual congregation as well. I hope you are warm and cozy wherever you might be. One of the things we do when we come together here each week is to consider what makes us feel fully ourselves, grounded, at peace with ourselves, even in the midst of all that's going on around us. We touched on this morning with today's reading in the middle. Amidst the chaos and constant distractions of our lives, we need to take some time to lie in our metaphorical hammocks, letting go of tracking every second of time ticking by. We're always caught between the mesh of rope here in planet Earth and the net of stars overhead that fill us with awe and wonder and trigger flights of imagination about what lies beyond what we currently know. Whenever we find ourselves lying in our hammocks, we realize that we're inevitably tangled up in love, connected with one another in an interdependent web, and we come closer to realizing who we really are. We also touched on this with today's frog and toad adventure. Frog goes off to be alone, to contemplate the ups and downs, the bounty and deficits of his life as a frog, not, as Toad assumes, because he's sad and pathologically lonely, but because, like each of us, he needs alone time to gather and ponder his thoughts, to count his blessings, and to think about how fine everything is, including his abiding friendship with his perpetually insecure but always loyal friend, Toad. So where does accountability fit into this quest to find out who we really are? Accountability, a word we've heard a whole lot in the past few years, especially since the death of George Floyd and others who died in encounters with police. We need to hold those police officers accountable for ending his life by kneeling on his neck. In UU circles, we hear about needing to hold ourselves accountable for racism in our employment practices and the way we structure how we've led and governed, especially as a religious denomination with a predominance of white members. For the past 4 years, we've heard accountability mentioned in connection with what happened in our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021. A violent insurrection, an attempted coup to prevent the peaceful transition of presidential power. We need to hold accountable those who fomented and participated in this insurrection. And most recently, many critics of the current administration in Washington have been crying foul about the lack of accountability that Elon Musk seems to have to anyone, including the president, for his unauthorized action shutting down government programs. Accountability is shorthand for making someone take responsibility for their words and actions and paying some sort of price for the consequences of what they've said or done if they violated some law or rule or norm, or if their action has injured someone. The word itself is interesting. Think about it. An account is something we associate with money, as in bank accounts. When someone keeps track of how much money we've entrusted to them, and we trust that they are careful about keeping accurate accounts. It's also something we associate with telling stories. giving a true and accurate account of something that happened. So what does this tell us about holding people accountable? Implied is our ideas of accuracy, truth, congruence with some agreement that we've made. Accountability assumes a willingness to be held to account in some shared world of meaning or value. That's one reason that accountability is so fraught in the highly polarized world we live in. When you don't agree upon a shared set of values or standards to which to be held to account, the whole notion of accountability breaks down. It's hard to hold people to account for words or deeds that you think violate some shared standard if they totally disregard that standard as in any way relevant to their actions. You can't hold someone accountable in the abstract. You can only hold them accountable to act in accordance with some shared set of values or standards. Sometimes these are expressed as laws. When someone breaks the law, we expect the government to hold them accountable for what they've done, putting them through a legal process of charges and trial, where evidence is presented and a judge or jury decides whether or not the person is guilty of the crime and should pay the penalty or undergo the punishment. That's what had been happening with over 1,200 of those who participated in the January 6th insurrection. They were being brought to trial, found not guilty or guilty, and if guilty, sentenced or punished, usually prison for some period of time. President Trump's blanket pardons totally unraveled public accountability for their actions, which is why so many people were outraged by his action. Legal accountability is one of the clearest forms of accountability, and we have a whole judicial system set up to deal with violations of law. Not that the system works perfectly. There are plenty of instances of innocent people being convicted, imprisoned, sometimes even executed, sometimes wrongly convicted, imprisoned, and executed. And plenty of instances where people may not be convicted or imprisoned or fined, even though they're guilty of breaking the law. In terms of accountability, our legal system isn't perfect, but it hopes and tries to hold people accountable to obey the laws of the land and doles out consequences for them if they don't. Consequences. Consequences are what gives accountability teeth and power. Without consequences, accountability is meaningless. Accountability operates differently at each of several levels, and I want to explore those briefly with you this morning. The individual level, the group level, the national level, and international level. Let's start with the individual. What does it mean to hold ourselves accountable? For what am I accountable, and to whom? Based on my upbringing and education, I hold myself accountable for living a life of honesty and integrity, for being a loyal and loving friend to those that I know, for loving my neighbor as myself, for doing unto others what I would have them do unto me, for admitting my mistakes and ways I've injured others, apologizing and asking for forgiveness, for being open to try to understand and forgive others who repent of their wrongdoing, for relieving suffering where I can, for trying to leave the world better than I found it. To whom am I accountable? To my family and friends, to the organizations in which I've agreed to serve in leadership, the Living Legacy Pilgrimage, the Retired Ministers and Partners Association, Friends of Cedarmere, where I live, Summit UU Fellowship as a minister emeritus. To my town, state, and country under whose laws I live, to the global community with which I'm connected, to God, or the source of life and power to which I owe my very existence. And finally, to myself, to the values and commitments I've made throughout my nearly 8 decades of living on planet Earth. Agreements and commitments to other people are the mechanisms through which we structure accountability into our lives. It's what makes accountability a uniquely human phenomenon. We enter into agreements and we make commitments to others in order to create a framework for accountability. Often it's mutual, formally, as in a marriage, or informally, as in friendship. And through communication and the give and take of relating, we hold one another accountable for honoring our commitments and promises. When I perform a wedding, I generally include this quote from American playwright Thornton Wilder from his play, The Skin of Our Teeth. One of his characters, Mrs. Antrobus, reflects on the ups and downs of her marriage, and she says to her husband, "I didn't marry you because you were perfect. I didn't even marry you because I love you. I married you because you gave me a promise. That promise made up for your faults, and the promise I gave you made up for mine. 2 imperfect people got married, and it was the promise that made the marriage." This is a structure of accountability, mutual accountability. It's said a person is as good as their word, and only if that is true is accountability possible. If you do not mean what you say, or speak honestly, or care about the truthfulness and sincerity of your commitments and agreements or promises, others aren't going to trust that accountability is possible, because there's no shared framework for accountability to exist. In finding and preserving our center, it is crucially important that we always tell the truth, say what we mean, and mean what we say. Well, how about group accountability? Let's look at this in the context of our identity as Unitarian Universalists. What does it mean for UUs to be accountable? For what are we accountable? In our current incarnation, we're accountable for living in accord with the purposes outlined in Article 2 of the UUA's bylaws, which commit us, congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw upon our heritage of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. This article goes on to say, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence, honoring the interdependent web of all existence and protecting Earth and all beings from exploitation; pluralism, embracing our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect; justice, committing to dismantling all forms of systemic oppression and consistently using inclusive democratic processes; transformation, embracing openness to change and adaptations to a changing world; generosity, cultivating a spirit of gratitude and hope, and celebrating relationships of interdependence and mutuality; and equity, affirming that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. And let me just interject here that this list of values is not universally held in the culture in which we currently live. And it will be glaringly obvious to some that if we affirm these values as our own, we're going to get a lot of pushback from people that says, "You're crazy. This is all wrong." I, for one, believe that these are values worth fighting for. We create mission statements, strategic plans, behavioral covenants, to articulate what we expect to be held accountable for in our relationships with one another and in the wider world. And it's important to remember that Unitarian Universalism is a faith tradition defined not by words of shared belief, creeds, but by words of shared commitment for which we expect to hold one another accountable. Let's turn to national accountability. What does accountability look like at the level of the nation in February 2025? It's a tricky question. There is so much going on right now. I would say that, again, this is not universally held or popular, but worth articulating. In light of our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, the body of laws and court rulings over the past 230 plus years, we have much to be accountable for as citizens, especially given the events of January 6th and their persistent aftermath. As citizens of the United States, we must hold ourselves accountable for informed and principled voting, for candidates committed to preserving American democracy and constitutional governance, influencing government to protect and preserve a viable planet in the face of threats from climate change, redressing wrongs from over 400 years of slavery, white supremacy thought and practices, racial, social, political, and economic systems, eliminating poverty and its adverse effects on wide swaths of the population, and ensuring a more just and equitable distribution of the fundamental economic necessities of life in the 21st century and beyond. Finally, recognizing the peril and suffering facing millions of people because of natural and human-caused disasters and dislocation, and mobilizing the world community to address and alleviate this suffering. And we hold ourselves accountable to all those currently living within our borders, citizens or not, and to future generations who are yet to be born. International accountability, what does that look like at the level of the entire planet? I believe we need to hold ourselves accountable for the health and viability of the human community, with which we have expectations embodied in treaties and agreements and international institutions like the UN, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice. But we also need to hold ourselves accountable for the health and viability of animal and plant species who cannot speak or advocate for themselves. At its most elemental, at the global level, we hold one another accountable for remembering our interdependence with the rest of the world. Slightly modifying the famous words of 17th century English poet John Donne, "No one is an island entire of itself. Every person is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as any manner of thy friends or of thine own were. Anyone's death diminishes me, because I am involved in humankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." If we seek to live lives of purpose and meaning, we're going to have to come to terms with accountability to ourselves, to family and friends, to the groups that we are committed to our nation, to the interconnected world we live in. May we encourage and support one another in holding ourselves and one another accountable for honoring our commitments and promises, so we may live according to our values and do whatever good we can to leave the world better than we found it. And may we find insight and inspiration in those moments we spend in our hammocks and on our little islands, reflecting upon the commitments we've made to one another and to ourselves, for which we need to hold ourselves accountable. So may it be. Shalom. Blessed be. Insha'Allah. Aho Shanti. Amen. And let us conclude with an African American hymn, again in the spirit of Black History Month, hymn number 1018, Come and Go With Me. And as the Spirit allows, please stand as we sing this together. And we'll do all 4 verses. Amen. Y'all are good singers. All right. I hope you all at home were also singing and making a joyful noise in your own places. So, our closing words are words of Tony Vincent that she wrote inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. In this place, we bring our scattered lives together, groping for meaning and looking for truth. Be with us as we continue our search for understanding of the mystery of the temporal. Stay with us as we wander through our memories, seeking pathways to the future. Move with us as we unravel the implied imperatives of hope unfulfilled. Justice makes tireless demands, and we grow weary as we touch one another in common cause, and with the Great Spirit in our midst, let us find the way and the courage to realize the dream which still lives within us. Amen.
But the song we sing, and fear's the way we die. mountains ring or make the angels cry. Know the dove is on the way. You need not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Some will come and some will go, and we will surely pass. When the one who left us here returns for us at last, we are but a moment's sunlight fading in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. If you hear the song I sing, you must understand. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. I think we better do this one more time.